Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the recap. Michael D'Angelo, and welcome back El Comandante Daryl Ortiz after his big vacation. Happy anniversary again, my friend. Good to have you
Thank
back
you.
because I know people are just tired of hearing from me.
Glad to be back. Happy to be here. Appreciate you jumping in for me. And yeah,
Of course.
you give me too much credit. I doubt I was highly missed by the crowd.
I'm sure you were. You know what was not highly missed by the crowd? This week's Raws and SmackDown, and we had Saturday night's main event. I'm going to call it a mixed bag of just
Yeah,
random
randomness.
things happening, randomness. Sometimes the shows now feel a little disjointed. Obviously, we recently had the whole Sami Zayn dropping the title of CM Punk. Like stuff happens so randomly at this point
Yeah.
that who knows? But let's talk before we get to Saturday night's main event. Let's run through the important stuff that happened on Raw and SmackDown, which wasn't a ton. A lot of it was setting up
No.
Saturday night main event.
Yeah, that in SummerSlam. You had, of course, Brock Lesnar, Paul Heyman out there to open up. You had Obafemi attacking the line of policemen that they had. Police.
Line of fake policemen. Yeah.
Yeah. Local talent, which is cool. It's fun to do. Io Sky, of course, defeating Roxanne Perez, just continuing that feud between Liv Morgan because Roxanne was supposed to soften her up. So
Yeah.
Maxine
And
Dupree,
she did. Targeting the knee, I believe. This is like a
yeah,
lot
they're
more
still
of a
working the
targeting the
knee.
knee of Io Sky.
Yeah,
So Io Sky's going to have no like ACL, MCL, or PCL
apparently,
by,
yeah,
by the time she gets to SummerSlam, because every week one of the cronies just targets the knee. So we'll see.
exactly.
We'll see if she makes it.
Yeah, speaking of cronies, you had Maxine Dupree kind of dump, I guess you could say, Otis and Tozawa. So Austin Theory can, and this is really just turning into like, how do you think she would love a big slob like you when she could have jacked me? So it's
Yeah.
just, yeah, it's typical
Well,
WWE.
which sounds ridiculous because wasn't Otis like dating Mandy Rose in a storyline
Yes, he
not
had
too
Mandy
long
Rose.
ago?
I'm like, hey,
I'm like, come on. Clearly
yeah,
Otis obviously has some game. Well, I'll say some game from our generation, some riz, as the kids like to say these days, which I don't get it. But so this seems a little far fetched where he's like, that it would be impossible. It's like, we've already disproven this with your old storyline. So come on.
yeah. So, I mean, we'll see what goes from here. Obviously, the Vision versus Alpha Academy is probably going to be something that happens. Royce
It'll probably get booked
Keys.
at SummerSlam because they're still trying to fill out the card. So this
Yeah,
will
it's
be
only
one of
6
those
matches for a
SummerSlam
2-night
matches.
show, which is nuts, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Royce Keys versus Jimmy Uso, of course, ended in no contest. You had all the interference happening. So, of course, that just really was just to set up a 6-man tag between the Usos and Jacob versus Royce Keys, Solo, and LA Knight. So, because they apparently have nothing else to do. So, random
Well, and
6-man
I agree
tag.
because that's what this feels like. Because I'm like, man, poor LA Knight. They won't find anything meaningful for him to do. So the fact that he's teaming up with Solo Sokoa, who's kind of cost him and ruined him multiple times in storylines, and it's like, and Royce Keys too, just so he's got something to do against Jay and Jimmy. That's a disappointment because he's the one that's getting the biggest pops out of everybody in this group right now. But they
Yeah.
have him relegated to this what's essentially a meaningless 6-man tag. I wish they'd
Yeah.
find better things for LA Knight to do.
I mean, I would debate that Jacob also gets as almost as big as a pop as LA Knight. But yeah, I get your
Yeah.
point. It's kind of like he's over, and it's like they're just here being this
Yeah.
random tag match.
Exactly.
We also had Lara Valkyria belittle and attack Bailey. That was just setting up Saturday night's main event, which we'll talk about that match later. We had the Intercontinental Championship #1 contenders gauntlet match. Say that 5 times fast.
Yeah.
Started out with Dominic Mysterio and Joe Hendry, which was nice to see. But of course, Dominic Mysterio won with help of JD McDonough.
Yeah.
Javon Evans was able to get the victory on Dominic because, of course, what happens? Danhausen and JD McDonough have a no DQ match at Saturday night's main event. So, of course, Danhausen comes out and hits JD with a shirt cannon, which was hilarious and awesome. And, of course, it cost Dominic the match because Javon Evans hit the OG cutter. Then just for Javon Evans to lose to Dragon Lee. So that was there. And then Rusev, actually, I'm sorry, Javon Evans defeated Dragon Lee. I meant just for Javon Evans to lose to Rusev. That was really just so Javon Evans can take the loss from Rusev. Rusev defeats him with the accolade. Chad Gable defeats Rusev and then eventually defeats Ethan Page, making him tap out. So, yeah, that's your Intercontinental Tag.
We're getting at SummerSlam.
Yeah,
We're going to be
you're getting
versus
Penta versus Chad Gable. And the thing about it is, this is what started I like the storyline on this because it's actually the loss to Penta, and Penta's debut was Chad Gable. And Chad Gable is now on a redemption arc, and this is like the ultimate redemption path to take. This is the next logical step. He has to face Penta, who he lost to in the very beginning of Penta's WWE career. So the question is, are they going to put the title on Chad, or are they going to keep it on Penta?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I feel like they're going to go Gable here at SummerSlam. I really do, just because they like to change. Now they like to change titles pretty frequently at this point. Penta's had it for a short time, but he's had it ages by current WWE booking standards. And this is kind of like the build up for like Chad Gable's redemption tours to put a title on him right now. So that's what I feel like will
Yeah.
happen. I do want to point out though, the loser in all of this is Joe. The big loser in this whole match was Joe Hendry, because Joe Hendry, talk about a guy who was completely over before he even got into the company. He had his debut with the WWE in the Royal Rumble when he was still with TNA, and got the biggest pop in the Royal Rumble. He had the next match he had was at WrestleMania against Randy Orton, which I will say I believe he had the biggest pop of the weekend in that WrestleMania match against Randy Orton. Then they kind of stuck him on NXT and did nothing with him. Now he's kind of getting 50-50 booked, and he was the first one out in this gauntlet match. And then when he's not, he's singing songs at ringside and then getting beaten down by the Vision. And I'm thinking, guys, what have you done with Joe Hendry?
Yeah.
I have never seen a group of creative folks that can just absolutely bungle people who have gotten themselves over. So this is like LA Knight, Joe Hendry. I'm going to throw Jordan Grace in the mix with that as well.
But yeah.
What happened to Jordan Grace?
Yeah.
Where has she been? Like they brought her onto the roster. Like I remember her big when she was in TNA and she was in the Women's Royal Rumble when she made that big splash. She should have come into so much fanfare. They came in with all this hype, and then they had her get beat by Jade Cargill, and then she just kind of disappeared
almost instantly. It felt like we were even talking about how soon it was. Like, yeah.
Oh, and I'm thinking like, where, like, is she injured? Because I didn't think she was injured. I think she's just been off of TV and they haven't used her.
I think her contract ended.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, that's wild to me. It's like what a waste of talent. So that's just a side note for this. I think Chad Gable versus Penta is going to be great. It's just there's other things you can do with Joe Hendry.
I agree. Joe Hendry. I feel like it would have made more sense to have. I mean, I have a feeling we're gonna have a 6-man tag. Well, I don't know, because I don't know Logan Paul's status on his arm, but I was gonna say we're probably gonna have Joe Hendry team up with Alpha Academy at some point to go after the Vision, since they've been going at the Vision. But
yeah, I'm curious like what the timetable is with, because it felt like Logan Paul's injury was going to be like 6 months, or I don't know how long he's been out at this point, but it doesn't feel like it's been that long.
I mean, it helps that he's still on TV, so I'll give him that. At least he's still on TV and making his presence known. But our main event segment was just building for SummerSlam, because we had Roman Reigns and, of course, doing the contract signing with Seth Rollins, banter back and forth, end result, of course, lots of burners coming in, stingers coming in left and right. The big one that got Seth Rollins to fire up was Roman Reigns mentioning that, okay, so what if you do win the title? You're just going to get hurt again and give it up, which is true. It's factual. Which apparently was the trigger for Seth to come in, and they just started brawling. Seth Rollins to Hall, and that was it. So again, just setting up Saturday Night's main event.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, like for the most part, SmackDown was just setups for that as well, for Saturday's main event, because the opener was Gunther coming out. And which here's what's hilarious about this. I love the way that WWE's booked this. That Gunther comes out and then commentary goes, yeah, after like beating down Nick Aldis, choking him wildly multiple times, they're still deciding what to do with Gunther. So they've done nothing. And I'm like, really? Nick Aldis got into a shoving match and was immediately suspended. He nearly beat Nick Aldis to death.
Choked him out
to death multiple times. And a week later, they're still deciding what to do about Gunther. And so right now, he's not even on administrative leave. They're like, he's just can kind of come in and do whatever he wants, and it's fine. And then Adam Pearce is like, well, if you had just let Nick Aldis finish what he was saying, he would have told you that if you guys won in the tag match, you would be added. I'm like, I've watched that segment. That's not at all how it was going. He just said you guys are going to face each other. There was nothing extra. It was like, that was it. So like the whole thing was written badly to be like, if you hadn't just gotten carried away, he would have told you guys, if you win, you're in at SummerSlam, and it turns into a fatal 4-way. So this whole thing was kind of silly, but it was, again, just set up for Saturday Night's main event.
But see, I feel like it would have gone. I feel like this would have made more sense to use that line. I feel like it would have made more sense to use had he been like, if you would have listened through the rest of it without attacking him, you would have been told that, if you guys would have won, you would have been added Saturday main event. But since you did what you did, that's now off the table, and you're
Yeah, it's
still
off
going
the
to fight
table.
them as like that would have made a lot more sense, especially after what happened at
Yeah,
Saturday main
because they
event,
still
because we knew
rewarded him, and then there was
yeah.
never any punishment.
No. Well,
Because
Cody Rhodes came out and said, "I want you at the main event," and that
well,
was
yeah, he's like, I want to fight you in the main event, and they're like, are you sure that's a good idea? Which again, you guys walked into the show without having a main event booked, which happens every week on SmackDown. Apparently, like they book their main event based off of whoever's the loudest in the opening segment.
That's
so
right.
that was the setup for the end. The biggest thing here, though, was the announcement of Rhea Ripley's kind of ongoing recovery from her injury and that she's not going to be back for some time. And so, in the interim, they're going to crown a new interim women's champion at SummerSlam with a women's ladder match. And it was like, and the tournament starts tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's going to do this scramble tournament to have this women's ladder match, which, depending on the participants they get in, should be pretty awesome. It should be great.
I
and
agree.
So then they kick this off immediately to start off this show. We did have also Finn Balor versus Tama Tonga, which was a really good match, but it's like, this is fine. This is a B-level storyline. I'm wondering if they're going to have them kind of fight through it and then do some sort of a reunion, some sort of a Bullet Club reunion with these guys. But
yes, that's what I'm hoping.
It's hard to say. Hopefully, but Finn did get the win here. And then after that, you had the first women's ladder match qualifier, which is Tiffany Stratton versus JC Jane. And this one had the women's tag champs at this point, Brie and Paige came down and helped even the score because obviously Fatal Influence all rolls together. Tiffany Stratton won, advanced, which obviously you knew was going to happen here too, because they weren't going to do a women's ladder match without her trying to do the prettiest moonsault off the top of a ladder. So so she's in as we do this mad sprint here. And then of course the Paige and Brie thing was just out to set up Saturday Night Main Event. They had a championship match against the two cronies from Fatal Influence.
I mean, that was the given. There's no way that they're going to have her. I mean, I feel like JC Jane eventually is going to be a champion of sorts. I think it's too early for her to be considered for the women's title, but it's just, they're just trying to build this. Well, especially after what happened on Saturday, again, it's just to help build the faction. I think they're doing a slow build with them to kind of build their credibility because a lot of people don't, because they have so much heat right now. They get booed so much, which is good. That's what you want as a heel, right? You want to get a reaction from the crowd, but I don't think they're gonna put a title on JC Jane just yet, but I think it'll probably be like a US title or Intercontinental title first, because that's always seems to be the logical step for new folks. It does, yeah.
It's
let her build up.
Step for them to do that. It's like, let her build to it, and then maybe if you want to, because the women's ladder match is going to be a no DQ. Like maybe have JC Jane run down there and get into something with Tiffany Stratton.
Yeah,
she's
the
US champion. And then
because Tiffany Stratton's not going to win because she's already the US champion. So just use that to set up 100%. A WrestleMania feud. Yeah, I agree. That's what.
And then you had the next women's ladder match qualifier, which is Jade Cargill versus Nia Jax. This one wasn't a wild fan of because Charlotte appeared immediately, like within a couple of minutes of the match, and attacked Jade, and the match ended in a DQ. And so she was here to mess with Jade Cargill. And to hurt Jade Cargill and to get revenge on Jade Cargill, and by doing so, advance Jade Cargill in the tournament and allow her to go to SummerSlam and compete, which
makes
just
backfired.
Charlotte look like an idiot. Yeah, it makes her look like a complete idiot. And I'm thinking, Charlotte, you're too wise of a veteran, and you've been around too long to have done something this ridiculously stupid.
Yeah.
So it looked, and then she got beat down by Meechin and BFAB and Jade afterwards and got hit with a Jaded. So it was all around not a good night for Charlotte. So this whole thing was silly. And then after this, Nia Jax complained. And instead of them saying, hey, you're right, let's run it back, they were like, you're right, you're going to get another shot, and we're going to move you into next week. You're going to compete against Charlotte, and the winner is going to advance. And it's like, oh, well, why do that? Just run it back and say, Jade, because of what happened, the match hadn't even started. It wasn't like you were dominating the whole time and about to win. We're going to run it back. Of course, they're not going to do that. They're just going to.
It would be funny,
and I guess another shot.
It would be funny, and it would make me laugh. Is if like Jade and her crew go and they interfere, and then they make Charlotte win by DQ, and so Chania still gets screwed out of an opportunity, but now they got to face each other in the ladder match. Like, I think that'll be. I think I have a feeling that's what's gonna happen, which is
They
why I think it's
might,
so
well,
hilarious. Yeah,
because I think Charlotte is going to advance. I think she's going
but
to
yeah,
win and she's going to advance, and it's not going to be Nia. So they very well might just copy paste this from 1 week to the next. That would
watch. I bet
really
you they
be
will.
in
Mark my
the
words,
writing
folks.
wheelhouse. All right, write it down, everyone. 'Cause that's how it's going down. We have War Raiders versus Fraxium, which is match of the night. This thing was great. It was
Yes.
awesome. If there's one match you're going to watch from it, which again, I'm going to go back to WWE hates real tag teams, but they shouldn't, because this is why they're so brilliant and they have such great chemistry and they work so
Yeah.
well together. This thing was a banger. It was really, really good. It's everything that the eventual title match between Damian Priest, R-Truth, and the War Raiders will not be, because they ain't Fraxium. But this thing was really great. Go back.
Yeah, I love this match. It was great. War Raiders, seeing them actually like be themselves again, which was awesome to see. No gimmicks aside, just Vikings beating the crap out of people, I think is awesome. Fraxium just doing their thing. Like, right, each tag team did their thing essentially, and it was the match of easily hands down match of the night. So
hands down. Main event was Gunther and Cody Rhodes. Gunther trying to soften up Cody. And here's what was funny about this. CM Punk's like, I'm going to watch your back out there because I know he's going to try and take you out. I know he's going to try to hurt you. And Gunther just starts whooping on Cody. Legally, mind you. Gunther didn't cheat the whole time. He's whooping on Cody. He's hitting his leg into the post. And then he hit his leg into the he hit Cody's leg into the post one too many times. And then CM Punk's music blasted. And he came out there to stop him. And I'm thinking, Punk, why are you out here to stop him from like just competing in a match? It wasn't like he got a chair and was doing stuff that was illegal. He's doing everything that generally wrestlers do in the confines of a wrestling match.
yeah,
He was just roughing up Cody and roughing him up too much. And he's like, hey, don't rough up Cody so much. So like the call down where he was basically trying to interfere was dumb. And then, of course, because he came down, Sami Zayn finally arrived at the end of the match and attacked CM Punk, and the whole thing devolved and it turned into just a big brawl and basically a DQ brawl, which we had. So we had two matches and ended with DQ. So it was fine. This was, again, just a big setup for they've all got a tag match at Saturday night. So
can they get along?
One day. Can they coexist? Which is what they
will
say.
They? Yeah,
it
was fine
because
we knew that was going to
Saturday night's
happen
main
once CM
event.
Punk was there. Yeah, once CM Punk was there,
of course, 100%. Which brought us.
But
to
anywho,
event, Big D.
Yeah, Saturday's main event. You had kicked off actually the pre-show with Trick Williams versus Laredo Kid non-title match. Good match. Trick Williams ended up winning. This was a great kickoff to the show. But then you had the big start, the official start. I was supposed to give them an honorable mention, but yeah, the first start.
There's only 4 matches on the actual card.
Yeah,
4 matches.
Yeah, so I'll give credit to the New York crowd. They were like deafening. They were great. They made the night much better for sure. You had Fatal Influence versus Paige and Brie Bella for the women's tag team championship match. Fallon Henley and Lainey Reed picked up the victory thanks to, and this is funny. I chuckled at this because this was like super karma because of course we complain about the faces doing heel tactics, like the roll ups that Brie and Paige would do to grab the ropes and everything. They're trying to do it again. Only to get JC Jane there to push Paige over and let Lainey Reed kind of pick up the roll up and get the victory with the tights.
Like
the right way, like a heel should. Yeah. And they won the title. So now we have a real tag team with the championship title. So thank you. That is great.
Coming. I'm sure you saw this too, because I was like, I figured of all things, this was going to be the title change that was going to happen. I think it makes sense because also I think when Paige was coming back, they kind of wanted to, hey, let's ease her back in. Let's have her do some tag wrestling. And now this is a good opportunity for her to break off and kind of do, I don't know if they'll do like a feud between her and Brie or not, or if they're going to do like a falling out between those two, or if
I wouldn't mind seeing her and JC Jane feud. Her and JC Jane.
That makes the most sense for her. Yeah. Like, that be like the next feud. But the problem with that is, do you squash JC's momentum by putting Paige over her? Hopefully not. Like I feel like that's what they would do. Is they're trying to get steam for Paige at this point. So I don't know.
Unless Paige is going to be in the ladder match.
Maybe she's one of the surprise entrants, or she gets one of the last qualifiers and ends up in the ladder match. That'd be interesting if she gets in the ladder match and wins.
That would. And then it'd be her and Rhea.
Yeah.
Which would be very interesting.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
I
agree.
They'll do that, but that'd be neat.
I agree. And I think the biggest thing too to take away from here is that we finally have, I think it's deserving. Like I said before, Fatal Influence is definitely over as a heel. They get booed. The crowd reaction was perfect to it. I think everyone wanted. I think the fans like low key wanted to cheer because they were like, "Oh, thank God, we're gonna see the titles every week." But then it's like they're like, "Oh no, wait, you're heel, boo!" Like it's like. But I liked it. I'm happy with that. And then it finally gets the titles off of somebody who's super part time, super duper
Yeah,
part time, because it was just.
100%.
And I get it. They're trying to ease them in. But we knew Brie Bella coming back was going to be a very part-time run. I wonder if that's what made Paige very part-time too. So maybe now Paige can be around a lot more and actually wrestle and actually like compete
Yeah, hopefully
for
so.
some titles. So we'll see. But yeah, that's how we kicked off the night. Then we had one of my favorite matches of the night, which was the no DQ match between Danhausen and JD McDonough. The crowd popped immensely. You had the Blimphausen out there.
Yeah.
No DQ, which meant you knew Dom was going to get involved. Of course, it was all around the disrespect. Yeah. Dom just being a phenomenal heel and having that jersey, cleaning his feet, cleaning his shoes with the jersey, getting the crowd to just like boo the hell out of him. It was fun to see because Danhausen kept trying to hit his Triple D finisher, the Danhausen Death Drop, but they kept getting interference. They kept started bringing out the table. Danhausen kind of scurried away. So in all fairness, this was probably the silliest moment where, and it not the clone machine, but where
I was like, the clone
Dom
machine
and
was
JD. It was, but it made me laugh. It was fun when they tried to pull the table out. They had the mini Hausens attack them for a little bit. Yeah, but this was all just to buy time for Danhausen to make his way up to the ramp and to the clone machine. And the funnier part is that even after they cleared out the mini Hausens, Danhausen's still going to the clone machine. And instead of trying to finish the match, two people are inside the ring trying to set up a table. Why are there two of you to set up? The Dudleys had one. The Hardys had one. Edge and Christian just had one.
Like one of them should go down and stop Danhausen from doing what
exactly. Go get him. What are you going to do when you sit at the table besides stand there and look at him up at the ramp? Like he just took off. Yeah. So anywho, he got the black cat. He got the ripped up Knicks jersey and he threw it in there. And now came Cathausen, is what they were calling him, of course, because it was the New York Knicks star Karl Anthony Towns, which of course KAT, Cathausen. He came out and this was actually
Karl Anthony Towns though is a real person, so it's like the cloning machine didn't make him. Like you didn't.
It had him come out. Okay. It was great. Well, could you get it? The cat.
But we threw the cat in the jersey in there. I was like, but it
exactly. You get Cathausen.
You didn't make a clone of Karl Anthony Towns. Like it just threw that stuff in there, and then Karl Anthony Towns walked out.
That's but like, you know what? It got a big pop. It got a huge pop. He came out.
Like it was.
He came out
because it's supposed to be silly.
It's supposed to be like, especially like I don't know. People have noticed when Danhausen's introduced, they don't say from a city or state. They say 1313 Mockingbird Lane, and anyone who knows horror knows not horror, but even just like that type of genre knows that that's the address to the Munster family. So it's that's his gimmick, that's his shtick, and I love him for it. I love it because. And he can wrestle, obviously. So he came in, started doing his thing, and he ended up getting the victory. Dom, being a trooper and a champ, just taking that choke slam through the table. JD got choke slam.
Well, JD took a heck of. JD made Cathausen look like $1 million because
he did.
He got up so high and came down so hard on that choke slam.
He sold the hell out of that, and I appreciate JD McDonough for that. I think people don't understand how much of that was actually JD and Dom actually helping him out.
A lot of that was JD and Dom. Like they really sold those choke slams. Like they looked fantastic.
I agree.
And this one for me was like the right amount of celebrity involvement, and it was the right match and the right way to do it. So when we had the closing segment, I was like, this is too much. But this was perfect. This was the right amount, and it was the right match this was because you're suspending disbelief even more so than you normally do in a wrestling
because of Danhausen. You know what I mean? Like, and he's in New York. They're at Madison Square Garden where the Knicks play. Like, it's a given. Like it just made sense. After that, we had one of my contenders for match of the night, Lyra Valkyria versus Bayley. That was actually really, really good. A great match. During the match, I had to go back and look at the replay a few times. Lyra got busted open on her nose the hard way. And it looks like because Bayley was supposed to club her in the chest or in the belly. And in doing so, inadvertently popped her in the nose with her elbow. And that just turned her on like a faucet. You just saw the blood dripping down, which I feel I'm glad they kept the match going because I feel that added so much to this match. inadvertently, obviously. I know that wasn't meant to happen, and I can only imagine once they got backstage, Bailey was apologizing profusely because Bailey's such a nice person.
Probably.
But this helped. So you had them back and forth. This was a great match. I liked it. You got to see a new side of Lyra, her more heel persona. She had new music, but she showed a different side of her, and I really enjoyed this very much. She ended up beating Bailey. She beat her with the way she beat her. I appreciate it was a new submission for her, which looked really bad. You know, she made Bailey pass out, and then they took
Yeah.
her outside the ring to get Bailey. She ended up jumping her, doing it again, and then just beating her up. Again, this is what you need in a heel turn. You need her to just really, really dig into it, you know, and I think she did
Yeah.
that, and I enjoyed it. What do you think?
No, it was exceeded my expectations because I haven't been super wild about like the Bailey versus Lyra thing,
Mhm.
and I thought it was weird when they basically switched their gimmicks because it was like
Mhm.
Bailey was the one who was going crazy, and then all of a sudden they just flipped him and Bailey's a normal one. Now Lyra's having a mental breakdown, so that seemed confusing to me. It was like, almost like the writers forgot who was supposed to be the crazy one. But I think this one really worked. I think they made the best out of it that they possibly could. The match itself was really good, and it was very intense and seemed very impersonal. Like I said, the her getting busted open kind of added legitimacy to, okay, these two are supposed to hate each other and they're trying to like tear each other apart. So that was all good. I just wonder like what this means for Bailey now because she continues to lose and
Yeah.
drop matches, and I think she's getting close to her contract being up too. And I'm wondering if this is going to be kind of the end of her run with WWE at this point because they haven't done much with her. And now they kind of put Lyra over her. So I don't know. Like I'm worried about that because Bailey's so great, but
Yeah.
they just haven't done much with her. But
I
this stuff,
think
all of this was really good and exceeded my expectations.
yeah, I agree, and I feel like she's gonna go over to AAA more. They're probably gonna
Yeah.
renew her and just have her go to AAA because she's been kinda going there as like a trios team, which I feel if you're gonna do that, then do it because she needs a refresh. I don't think her gimmick needs a refresh. I don't think she needs a reboot. I think she's phenomenal as she is. She's great on the mic. She's great, amazing in the ring. I think she's a great asset to WWE. But if they're not going to utilize her in the main roster, I think it would make sense to let her go to AAA and really embrace it, and then just get over there even more so because she's already over at AAA. So I think that'll be the most. Don't let her leave because I mean, if she goes to AEW, it's going to be her and Sasha Banks feuding over and over and over. So I mean,
Totally. Yeah.
I mean,
And then speaking of feuding over and over, then we had our main event, which was
yeah, this that
tag
that was
match
my.
with all the stakes: CM Punk, Cody Rhodes versus Sami Zayn and Gunther.
They
I
have
wonder
to
what
coexist.
they must coexist. Will they? Won't they? They did for the most part. I mean, I think
Yeah,
he has some inadvertent things that happen, inadvertent shots that happen in this match, but they coexisted. That right before the match started, though, the first thought I had was, okay, clearly we're going to get interference from Nick Aldis on Gunther, and which is essentially how this thing wrapped up after a crazy back and forth, and it really devolved, and you had refs getting knocked out, and then you had that moment where the ref was out, and then Gunther took advantage and used the title and hit Cody with it. And then he hit the power bomb. And then another ref ran down. The other ref runs down. And then when he's doing the count, Nick Aldis basically just cheats. He runs in, grabs the ref, rips him out pretty hard where he like fell face first and crashed into the ground. It was a very heel pull him out of the ring. And then kind of stood over him and brooded and looked leaner and more self-tanned or more tanner. And I was like, yeah, Nick's definitely getting ready for a match.
yeah.
Basically he cost Gunther because after that Cody ended up getting the win, and so now it's just going to be a one-on-one CM Punk and Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam, and clearly Nick Aldis is heading towards a match with Gunther in this one. It was really fun and really great, but kind of obvious what was going to happen, at least from my perspective. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you knew that they were gonna do a fatal four way for the title at SummerSlam. They
Yeah.
could not, especially with the number of matches they currently have booked. They need more. So I knew, I sort of, I guess, I was kind of hoping it would be a fatal four way because that would be a good way to get the title off of Punk and put it on someone like Gunther or back on Sami Zayn. But
Yeah.
this actually was another contender for me for match of the night up until the interference.
100%. Yeah.
This was a great match. It was, I mean, you had four great wrestlers in the ring. I mean, they put it together. They did great. I enjoyed it. But yeah, when I was just waiting for it. When I saw the other ref come out and it looked like he was going to win, I was like, oh, they're really not going to do this. And then sure enough, you see him pull out. Nick Aldis just stands there, kind of fixes his suit. I'm like, oh, and I don't know, but he looked a little more jacked. I don't know if he's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was saying. He looked more jacked. Like his face looked leaner, and I was like, yeah, he definitely looks more jacked under the suit. You can tell he's lost body fat. Like you can tell he's
Yeah.
training really hard. And
Yeah,
then
you could
he
tell
looks
he's been
way more
training.
tan than he usually does. And I'm like, he's
Yeah.
training, he's tanning, he's getting ready for SummerSlam.
Yeah.
Clearly.
So and that actually makes me excited because I was kind of bummed out when Nick Aldis came over and just became GM instead of wrestling, because Nick Aldis was the NWA champion for a long time, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
And he's a good wrestler. So I think, but his style of wrestling actually would go very well against Gunther. They're both technicians, and it would be so good. So I'm excited to see that. So I wasn't terribly bummed out because I kind of knew that that's what was going to happen. But
Yeah.
I mean, it was a great match. The crowd was into it. I was into it. You had all the kinds of stuff happening, and yeah, it was a little telegraphed when you knew you hadn't seen Nick Aldis on SmackDown. You hadn't seen him all night. You're kind of like,
Yeah. It's like,
it's gonna happen
because they got to find a way to set this up, and he's got a costume, and that's the only way to do it. So
yeah.
But I'm looking forward, like that for me would be if they're going to book it. That's going to be like the sleeper match of SummerSlam and it's going to be way better than people are going to expect it to be.
Oh yeah.
And it'll probably be one of the better matches of the 2-day show.
Hands down. I agree.
I'm going on record. I think it's going to shock a lot of people how good it is.
Yeah. I agree.
But we'll see. What won't shock a lot of people? For me, the final segment of the night was.
But why was that the final segment? Sorry, why was that the final
segment? This should have
segment?
happened before the main event.
It was just awkward.
Like, the whole thing sucked.
Yeah, you had this big old intro for Jalen Brunson, which, hey, I respect it. He's the finals MVP, King of New York, the way they say. Okay, great. They had Eli Manning narrating a vignette like that. You should have opened the show like this. You should have opened the show like this. Open the show like this. Don't. Like, this is just because then what ends up happening, you have Jalen Brunson and Roman Reigns come out, and like what takes absolutely forever. Like, holy crap, that took a long time to get them out the ring. Yeah,
and then too long to give him this replica title, and then the whole thing. I was like, he's just given a title, and then Seth's music hit, and then you had Tyrese Halliburton. Come out and
granted, he got booed like hell, but it was good.
Well, of course, but it was like he just slow walks out, and then so this is where it got really awkward for me. Because then you had Seth Rollins jumped in and ambushed Roman Reigns, starts beating him down.
Yeah,
and at that point, Jalen Brunson's just standing there doing nothing. He's just staring.
He's literally like on the corner, just watching him get beat up. I'm like,
just like very casual, like he's not even like, "Hey man, stop doing that." He's just like, "All right," and then he's like, "Hey, don't try to stop me." And then he kind of, when he sets him up, he puts the chair down. He's going to go do the stop. And then he kind of he didn't run and get in front of him. He
he just like walked
in front of him and stands there to block him. And then Roman starts beating down Seth, and then Tyrese doesn't do anything either. He just stands there.
And he had a chair.
I know he had a chair and he did nothing. He just stands there. And I'm thinking, why are either of you out here? Like, neither one of you are backing up your guy. You're just literally the only person that did anything was Jalen Brunson, just slowly kind of walking in to kind of get in the way of a stomp. And then the ring cleared out, and then they just both walked off. Like, there was no reason for either one of them to be out of there. It really did have like UCW, like Karl Malone, Dennis Rodman vibes. But those two at least would have been a little bit more animated. Like maybe it's like hey, contractually we're not allowed to do anything because we can't get hurt.
Jalen Brunson's hurt. His wrist. Yeah, he had the wrist thing on.
He had the cast on his wrist. But I'm like, you can tell if that's going to be the case, why have them out there at all for this? And why have them in a dust up, pull apart brawl? Because they literally just stood there casually without any real concern, like, while these two are like fighting each other.
Meanwhile, earlier in the night, you had Carl Anthony Edwards knocking out choke slams. Like, I mean, God.
I know. I was like, Roman brought
Carl Anthony Towns out there just hitting choke slams left and right, like nothing.
Yeah, he brought the wrong New York Knicks player down with him because at that point, like, Danhausen made the right choice.
Yeah,
but this was also like too much. It was too many stars, too much NBA stuff. too much New York Knicks stuff. And I understand they're at Madison Square Garden. I understand the Knicks just won, but this felt like it was more a love letter to Knicks fans than it was to like wrestling fans. So just too much, a little bit too much. And to your point, this should not have been the closing segment for the show.
No, that's my only gripe. Honestly, yes,
took all
jokes
the air
aside,
out of everything.
this should not have been the closing segment. This should have started the show or at the midpoint of the show. This should not have been the closing segment, in my opinion.
Or
just
even do it
because
right before the main event. Do this and then do the main event, because the main
Yeah.
event was so good and had so much energy that this sucked all the air out of the building.
Yeah.
At least
I
for
agree.
me. Maybe not.
I agree.
Maybe not for the Knicks fans that were there. Maybe
Of
they were
course, because
happy
they're
with it.
celebrating. He was holding the championship title and everything for them, like the
Yeah.
actual championship trophy and everything, which is cool. But I
Yeah,
mean,
but everything
yeah.
else for everyone else, anybody watching at home, I was like, ugh, this. I was almost like skip. Like I should have just turned off the show after the main event. But you know, it
especially
was
at
what
those
it is.
long ass entrances. Good lord.
Good lord, indeed. But yeah, so we're set up for we're getting set up for SummerSlam. I won't say we're set up, as you said. We've only got 6 matches booked.
Well,
at this
so
point,
far,
so-
let me go back to that card here. I
Yeah.
think that's the
and we've got
absolutely.
2 weeks till SummerSlam. Yeah, I think we're
2
pretty
weeks. It's
set.
gonna be
Is that-
August 1st and 2nd. We're gonna have Io
Yeah.
Sky versus Liv Morgan if she can still walk. Obafemi, Brock Lesnar, Hell in a Cell. I'm looking forward to that one. Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, gonna be a good one. Cody Rhodes, CM Punk. LA Knight, Solo Sikoa, Royce Keys versus Jacob Fatu and the Usos. Chad Gable versus Penta, and then the interim women's championship ladder match. So that's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sorry, 7. So then they're gonna add Nick Aldis and Gunther, and then they're just gonna do
Nick
4
Aldis
per
and Gunther
night.
will get added to that. Gosh, what else are they going to build to? They'll have something with Finn Balor, probably. I would hope so.
Like Demon Finn, that'd be great.
Yeah, Demon Finn, maybe a women's tag match might, at this point, because they just changed the tag titles, but maybe they're going to do something. They'll scramble. You're going to see, like, over the next couple of weeks, they're going to scramble and throw together a bunch of matches to close this out.
So we'll see.
We shall see, indeed. But yeah, that's what we got for this week, everybody. What did you think of Saturday night's main event? What match? That's at least the ones that are already booked, or we can speculate because Gunther Nick Aldis is going to happen. What matches are you most looking forward to seeing at SummerSlam? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and leave those comments. We always love to hear from all of you. But that's what we got for this week. So until next time, I've been Michael D'Angelo. He's been El Comandante Daryl Ortiz. Have a great week, everyone. We'll see you soon.